All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Now, when we went into the break, she was telling me that she disagreed with me about the idea that if you don't have no kids, you probably shouldn't be with a man that has kids, because it ain't fair. I'm telling you, it ain't fair. You ain't gonna ask me to pay for that damn mansion that you and this other nigga lived in, but you ain't gonna move in now with me. But you were saying you don't agree with it, but kind of when we were talking afterwards, you kind of tripped you up. Now, do you believe, honestly, that people with... Here's just what I think, and I know practically it won't work, because if I meet a 24-year-old girl don't have no kids, but she willing to give me some, even though I have one, I'm going to go on and fuck that bitch, and we're going to get us a family, and we're going to pull a Bruce Willis. Fine. But I do believe, honestly, that people with kids should date people with kids, and people without kids should date people without kids, because they have a chance to create these families that we are talking about.
That's not what I disagree with.
What part do you disagree with?
Because you said something about, well, of course, when a man, marries a woman, he wants his own children with that woman. And
I'm talking about marrying. I'm talking about dating.
Well, you shouldn't be planning on having kids with somebody you're dating anyway.
No,
I'm talking about marriage.
No. That's where you're wrong. You said you shouldn't be planning on having kids with somebody you're dating. You actually should.
Well, I mean, when you're in the dating phase, we don't need to be trying to have a baby is what I'm saying. I believe that we should. Okay, so discussing and working on a baby is two different things.
Don't make me
so we don't have to be technical. What I was saying was bring children into the situation when the two people are married. That was the reference that I was trying to make.
Bringing up the conversation.
Well, yeah, the conversation needs to be had. The conversation definitely needs to be had, and it needs to something to be brought up.
Because this
up
whole
front.
Topic is about conversations, not actually doing it.
Absolutely. But what I was saying was because you said But you were saying that...
See, she done forgot what I was saying. All I said when you're trying to date with somebody like that, and you say, well, we're married, and I said the discussion would be, if you say you don't want any kids, I'm probably going to say I do want them if I don't have any kids and you do. And if you say you don't want any, I'm going to feel kind of some kind of way. Because why would I wait to have this conversation with you when I was married anyway? That's why when you said it, I was like, the fuck is you talking about? If I would have this conversation before, and if you say you don't want any kids, and I said I do, I would try to convince you. Because people can be convinced to do a lot of things. Get married a year earlier than you thought you would, whatever. Mm-hmm. But I would talk to you. And maybe you can convince me I don't want any. Mm-hmm. But I would say, the mansion analogy. You sat there and ran up a big-ass bill with this other dude. Y'all enjoyed this mansion. Mm-hmm. Went broke. Now I got to help you pay the mansion off. But I say, hey, one day, baby, when we get this mansion paid off, I'd like to move into one too. It looked like it was fun. Seemed like y'all had a good time while y'all were there. And you said, dude, I'm tired of that mansion living. That's what a woman is saying when she says, I don't want to have any kids with you. She's saying, I enjoyed fucking the last man I was with, getting the kid with him. The whole process was fun. I don't want to do it with you, though. But I'm going to treat you better than he did because he left. I'm staying because he ain't paying your bills. I am. And I always just look at it as the white women understand that's the least you can do for that man that's actually staying there. Now, you told me a story about your fears, and that's fair because there are a lot of things I don't do due to fear. We talked about a few things that I don't do and haven't done because I have a fear of certain things. Mm-hmm. But I'm open enough to say it. And when you talked about the fear, you brought up how you've seen someone, or you explained how you just didn't want to be.
I never wanted to be that mother who had a bunch of children with different last names. And I've seen it. I've seen women get married multiple times and you have kids with every husband. And I just didn't want that for me. That's fine for you. Mm-hmm. If that, if you want to have kids with every husband, I never wanted to do that.
And see, that's fair. But if you explain that fear, you and the man can talk and he might even back down. Because that is a legitimate fear. Like you said, if you've been divorced, you're not afraid, or you don't not think that it wouldn't happen again. That's why I wish people wouldn't try to say, you must be scared. Shut up and listen to the person. If something's happened, if I've dated a woman that's been raped, I'm not going to get mad because when I pull my hand up to raise my hand up, I'm sure, and she think I'm about to slap shit out her ass, I don't get mad because she jumps. Well, you must be used to people whooping. It's happened to me once, sir. Don't get mad at me because I'm defensive. So what you're saying is, it's happened to me once. But I've seen somebody else where it's happened to them multiple times. I didn't like the way it looked when they did it. It didn't look fun. And I don't think I want to do that. Is that basically what you're saying?
Basically, yes.
And I understand that. And I think a guy would understand that. The first part of just saying, well, not every guy. No. Deal with that guy. That guy says he wants one. But that's why I say, people with kids should probably not date people without kids unless they're willing to. You got to treat the guy, especially a guy. You got to treat the guy without kids like he might want some.
I mean, it's very hard. It would be very hard for me to date a man who didn't have children, because of the fact that I don't necessarily want more children. But if I did date a man who had no children, I mean, there's always, I wouldn't say an exception to the rule. There's not always an exception to the rule, but there's always that slight chance that you can like change your mind, or what
would it take to change your mind? Because you're pretty staunch, and you've let me know the reason why, and we can't really get into that right now because we want to get into solutions. But what would change your mind for any prospective guy that's listening to this so they can sell you on that? Well, what would change your mind? What are some factors in your mind that you said, well, if this happened, then maybe I could be open to it. Not that you do it, but I'd be more open to it.
I would have to have the ultimate blessed assurance that this relationship is literally till death do us part. Like, we're not going anywhere. Because it's easy for me. It was easy.
Is there really an assurance for that?
It's not.
So basically, that's the answer. Niggas, that's it.
There's not an assurance. Because, and my thing is this, I already felt like, going back into the dating scene, my stock had already went down. My background was tarnished because I went into it with the son.
But you were still light-skinned, though.
It doesn't matter. Light-skinned chicks, your stock goes down when you are out.
People, I'm not gonna say
when you re-enter the dating scene and you have children, your past is tarnished. You are no longer at the top of the totem pole.
Baby, I have seen.
You were down towards the middle.
I've seen light-skinned chicks with 3 kids still get married.
You can still get married
to a nigga that's a doctor.
You can still. The people. You can't help who you fall in love with. People fall in love for various reasons. You can't. You can help who you end up in a relationship with, and whether you build on that love, whether you build on those feelings or whatever. But you can't control who you have feelings for.
That's why, have you noticed though? That's why white people build wealth, because you don't marry somebody because you love them.
Because it makes sense. Can you partner up with this person? Can we build a future together? Does it make sense? Do we have things in common? Do you have a dream and a goal? And where in that vision can I fit and help so we can get to that level? Because it's going to take a lot more than love to sustain the relationship.
Successful marriages were not based upon love.
It's a partnership. It's definitely a partnership.
You have a reason to stay. You have a reason to make it work. You have a reason to not cheat, because love is something that's intangible. You cannot put your hands on it. It has no smell, no taste, no nothing.
Yeah, you have to have something invested into the relationship.
There you go. And that's how we get to the point of tonight, which is, how do you successfully co-parent?
So I will go back to before I answer the question on how you successfully co-parent, and I'll let you touch on it first. I'll piggyback off of you. But what I was saying was,
see, you thought it was sexual. It didn't make no sense.
Everything you say is sexual.
All you gotta do is make a face, guys. Yeah, give it a Jeezy.
What in the world was I getting ready to say?
You were still talking.
You have a child, and you're re-entering the dating scene. You're tarnished. You have your past is a little sketchy, and so now you're in a relationship with somebody new, and you've gotten married. It's not hard to get proposed to. It's not hard to be engaged. It's not hard to get married.
That actually
What's hard is maintaining that relationship, maintaining that marriage.
Will ever get first married. So that at that point, it's difficult to get married.
Light-skinned girls, it's not hard to get proposed to. It's not hard to get engaged. It's not hard to get married.
It's still hard to marry light-skinned girls. You'll propose to them first. Light-skinned girls get a proposal immediately. The nigga right before the nigga get ready to fuck, I want to marry you.
Well, I'm speaking from my experiences. It's not hard to get married. It's not, what's difficult is making the relationship work. So you've gotten married. You've gotten married for the second time, and this new husband wants you to have his babies. Okay, you've agreed to it. So you've already have a child or two from your first marriage. Now you're in your second marriage, and you've got however many kids you've given this second man. And let's just say that he dies in a motorcycle accident, or let's just say that you two get divorced. Now you have a set of kids from your first marriage and a set of kids from your second marriage. And these sets of kids have different last names. Your stock has then come down even further because now you have two men.
Is what you're saying?
I'm looking at the whole big picture all down the line. I never in my entire life ever wanted to have children who had different last names. Ever. I never saw that in my future. And I even said after my son's father and I had broke up, I was like, I'm not having any more kids because I don't want the multiple last name. Like I felt very uncomfortable with that. Like we going to school and we registering these kids for school. So the Johnson kids over here, the Williams kids is over here, the Tyson's kids is over here. I just never wanted that for myself. I didn't want to be that mom that had children with all these different last names.
That's fair.
That was my big thing. And then also, I put my career on hold when I had my son. Life as I knew it stopped when I had my son. And I was completely, totally devoted and focused on him. So I feel like at where I am in my life is 10 years behind where it could have been, because I made a conscious decision and a calculated effort to have him. So therefore, it was my responsibility to put my dreams and my goals, my aspirations, my endeavors, everything on hold to make sure that he, was taken care of and he was reared and he had everything that he needed. And we decided that I wasn't going to work. And so now that he's older and he's 12 and I'm back to doing the things that I love to do, I feel like if I was to get married and have a child right now, either my career is going to suffer or my family's going to resent me, one or the other. Because I want to, whatever I do, I want to give it my complete all. And I don't ever want to be resented because my time was divided.
But I even feel you on that when you say that. Like, I think, and this is when it's going to go into how to co-parent. I think we do, as black people, a bad job of explaining ourselves to people. Good words, strong words, powerful words, and sensitive words can go a long way to getting someone onto your side. To get someone to say, you know what? I actually feel sorry for what you... Like when you said that, I thought to myself, before you even said the second half of it, I said, oh, well, if she put her career on hold, then she's just now getting back into it. So the juices are flowing. She's enjoying this. So the next guy that says, I want you to have my baby, will actually be taking something from her because she's enjoying what she's doing. She's getting it back. So you're telling me to not do it anymore. So I can respect that because you've built up something. It's kind of like how I look at myself. I built something to the point of the people who are dating me have to understand. He's enjoying what he's doing, and you're either going to be a part of it and allow him to keep doing it, or he's going to resent you if you ask him to stop.
And you don't have to take off work to have a baby.
Right.
You don't have to stop touring. You don't have to stop doing anything to, like, I can't sit up here and make videos and be like, hold on, y'all, I got to throw up. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm in my first trimester.
This shit ain't live.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I'm just using that. You know what I'm saying? I can't do the Real Man tour and I'm 6 months pregnant. You know what I'm saying? It's certain things that a man can do and can continue on and have a family that a woman can't do. Not if you want to be a good parent. Not if you want to be a good mom.
Like the WNBA players, and they get pregnant, they lose the whole season.
Yeah.
When Kobe Bryant gets his wife pregnant, he just brings cigars to the locker room.
Right. Hey, y'all, she had another one.
All right. Now, I get that. And like I said, we got to do a better job of explaining and understanding with each other and communicating. And that's where we're going to go into this whole idea right now of how to successfully co-parent. Now, let me tell you about my situation. My situation did not start off well at all. It was a situation where the baby was had in order to keep me in line. This is what happened.
She should have just whipped you.
No, I don't get whipped by the pussy. I whipped that pussy. Anyway, but that's what I did. So she said, well, this dude is trying to leave me. I'm going to do this. She had successfully been on birth control pill for 6 years. We'd known each other. She decided, I'm going to stop because he's trying to leave. And that was still my fault because I shouldn't have been sleeping with her when I knew I was going to leave her. But our daughter was there. And then it was this big pawn. It was, I'm going to not let you see the child. Then I'm going to tell my family that you don't want to have nothing to do with it. And then it was this stupid push-pull. And I said, once I knew a little bit like law, I said, I'm not going to let that happen to me. So I fucked up the whole game. So once I fucked up the game, then it was a lot of resentment from the person.
How did you manipulate the game?
When you get the custody yourself, it's what the guy I know that plays in the NBA is trying to do now to the person who
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Right. Well, he's like, well, screw it. Since he said what you said and said what I told, they said, hey, if you got the money, people with money and black men need to start telling each other, why don't you just fight for custody? Mm-hmm. If this person's in court every day trying to get your money, you can turn that around and tell the judge, my money seems to be what's most important. Mm-hmm. So why don't you let me have custody? I have everything
and she
this
can
child
get visitation.
needs. Yes, I have everything this child needs. If she says that she needs to have a house as big as the one I got, just let him come live in my house and she can successfully do whatever the crap she wants to do, and she can visit whenever. I won't hold it over her head. I won't make her just get it every other weekend. Oh no, and she don't have to pay me a dime. She don't have to help pay for school. She don't have to pay for clothes. All she gets to do is be a mother. Now, Judge, isn't that more convenient for everyone? So that's what I decided to do, and more men need to do that. More black men need to do that. But if we don't want to go the court route, because like we said, you didn't get the courts involved in it before you got the baby, so why bring them in now? Here's the one thing that I really would like for you guys to do. Have a real respect for the person that you're laying down with. If you could start off by just having a real respect for that person, even when you're not dating, you'll have an amount of respect like how you said you had for your father, or how I have for my mother, to where even to this day, if we was in here screwing and my mother called and you coughed and she said, who is that? Out of nervousness, I'd say, the television. I'm a 37-year-old man and I still have a problem telling my mother that someone's spending the night. Respect. If you have respect, it's certain things you won't do, like tweet pictures out that you're in the bed with your boyfriend, in the bed with your child. It's certain things you won't do. I mean, it's just hypotheticals. I'm saying that there's certain things that you just will not do out of respect because you're co-parenting. Mm-hmm. My daughter's mother, if it's her time to have my daughter, which it's not really a time, we just do it. Because parenting isn't you get schedule. A child. Yeah, it's not isn't. A schedule. My daughter is one of those people where when she's sick, I want my daddy. Now, how fair is it if we're going to raise a child and say, well, it's not your daddy weekend? Then we start arguing at the child. You want to go with your daddy so bad? Blah, blah, blah. We start doing this. We make the child have to choose. Successful co-parenting is 1 year, that child is going to be a daddy's baby. Mm-hmm. 1 year, it's going to be a mama's baby. Mm-hmm. And each year, whatever it does, you guys have to put your egos aside. How do you guys keep your egos in check when it comes to your son? Because you got a handsome son. Mm-hmm. And you wanting to be mothering him and showing your girlfriend, look how handsome this boy is. I raised him like this. And your ex saying, that's my boy. He looking like his daddy.
No, he looks like me.
Anyway, how do you get to the point where you put the ego aside of where when he's like, he just spent a week with his daddy, but he comes back home and he say 2 days later, "Kai, we'll go back to my daddy."
Oh, he does it all the time. That happens all the time. But it's because his dad will sit up and play Black Ops. What is it called?
I don't know. I just play Madden.
So
witchcraft.
Whatever they be playing, he has all the game systems, and so he's a boy. He's a man's man. You know, they go to the barbershop. You know, they his dad and his father's brother, and he has a son, and they'll sit up and play video games and everything. So I don't get offended when he's like, I'm gonna go to my dad's house, because even his voice is deep. He even sounds like a man. It's no more like, Mommy, what's for dinner? It's like, hey, Mom, is the chicken ready yet? He's a man. So I don't get butthurt when he wants to be with his father. It actually makes me like he's growing into, he ain't laying on my chest like, Mommy. I'm very proud of what he's becoming, because he's not like, he don't let me clean the boogers out of his nose anymore. He's like, Mom, I got it. And that's all because he's a man. He's with his dad. I see so many 15, 16-year-old boys that still want to be breastfed.
Mama's boys.
Yeah. And I never wanted my son to be a mama's boy. I want him to love his mother, but I don't want him to be a mama's boy, because my son doesn't have to take care of me. I'm supposed to take care of him. And we equip them so that they can fly out of the nest and soar and be their own person. You have these mama's boys, and then they'll be 24 years old in your basement, no job, not going to school, because we baby our boys and we raise our daughters to be independent.
You need to watch my video called He's Your Son, Not Your Man.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I correct people all the time, and they be like, oh, look at your little brother. Oh, y'all are just like, no, this is my son. Mm-hmm. And I tell him that too, because even, as he, he's, getting bigger and stuff, he be like, yeah, remember that lady at IHOP thought that I was your brother? I said, yeah, but I'm your mother. You are not my brother. I'm your parent. And you have to have those boundaries. And so many women treat their sons like that's their man, because
they'll even call him my little man.
He's the and I've done that before. I've called my son my little man, just because when I look at him, it's like he's not a little boy.
But you don't mean it the way they're saying.
Like he's my man.
Like, when they're little, like he the man. Like I hate it when single women say this is the man of the house. That's not the motherfucking man of the house. That's your son. You don't have a man.
There's no man in the house. Your family is dysfunctional, and I had to come to terms with that, because my household was dysfunctional, because there was no hierarchy. There was no man at the head of the house. And I think that anytime you have a situation where the woman is the head of the house, and sometimes you can't control the reasons why. We have, husbands die, walk off, whatever the case may be. But that still doesn't take away from the fact that your family is dysfunctional.
And why is it that we can't acknowledge something? Do you think that the person with one leg doesn't acknowledge that he has one leg?
That you're handicapped. Your family is handicapped because there's no head. Anything that's running around with no head needs to be buried because it's dead. So, and that's I had to admit that about myself. I was like, this is dysfunction. There's no man in this house. It's me and my two cousins. I'm in this house, and I have a little boy. This is dysfunctional. My son needs to be where men are.
I do the same thing with my daughter.
And so I'm not pointing the finger at anybody. I had to look in the mirror at myself and my family, and I'm like, I can't give him what I had. I had my mother and my father. I don't have any step siblings. My daddy doesn't have any kids. Right? If he does, they haven't showed up, and my dad's been gone for 4 years.
Yeah, they usually show up
at the funeral when you read the will, they haven't showed up. So to my knowledge, my father didn't have any children outside, my mother or whatever. So, and that's not to brag. That's just it. That is what gives me the perspective that I have about family, because I saw family. I saw it the way it was supposed to be. My father wasn't abusive to my mother. My father didn't call my mother out of her name, and sometimes she drove him to it, but he still didn't do it. And so that's what I came up around. So I have a low tolerance for certain things because he was a really good man, and that is what helped me want to have a co-parenting situation, because I saw two parents working together to raise 4 children.
Did you do what I said in the beginning? beginning, which was have respect for the person you procreated with.
Absolutely. I still have respect for him. And that's why it's easy to co-parent. It's easy to co-parent with somebody that you respect. It's hard to co-parent with somebody that you have no respect for and that you just, and you blatantly disrespect that man, and you blatantly disrespect him in front of your children. So therefore your children blatantly disrespect him.
So for those who
further dysfunction.
So for those who are keeping count, right now we're at 2. The first thing that you should do is
communicate.
Yes, communicate and make sure that when you're even having these children that you want to give them both parents, that you see the value. Because if you don't see the value, and that's what we're going to talk about now, if you don't see the value in both parents, which in black communities, the women are being told, I'm independent, I don't need no man. And when they say they don't need no man, they in turn believe that their children don't need a man. So this is where the biggest amount of the dysfunction in the black community is there's no value in a man. So if there's no value in a man, then you don't care if he's not there. So there's literally no incentive to have a man there. And I don't know why I'm losing my voice. There's no incentive to have a man there. You don't see the value. The second part is you don't respect him. So that's where we're at right now. If you don't see an incentive and you don't respect the person, that's going to cause an issue. Well, here's one of the things that I think can help. One of the third things that I believe can help you in a co-parenting situation. When your main focus is the health and well-being of the child. If you guys can put aside your differences, because typically when people break up, one of them didn't want to break up. It's rare that y'all broke up and at the same time y'all was like, whoo, I'm glad this shit is over with.
Right.
Now, when that does happen, those relationships are usually wonderful afterwards. They both just came to a conclusion. Like, like 6 months ago, I was ready to break up with you, but I didn't know what to do because, we had committed to this thing and I didn't want to pull out. Yeah, that's how we got the child. But I didn't want to pull out of the relationship. And so now I didn't know. I felt like that like a year ago. But it's a relief. So y'all don't want to be together no more. Nobody wants to be together. Nobody feels like they were used. So you both walk away. And now the welfare of that child becomes what's most important. And they almost become friends.
Yeah.
My daughter's mother and I are like friends. I'm flying them both.
Well, it's easier when you can be friends. What makes it very difficult to co-parent is when one person is still in love with the other person. And 9 times out of 10, the woman is the one who wants to keep the relationship going. And I mean, it happens the other way too. Like sometimes the guy wants to keep the relationship going and the woman is just completely finished with it. But the whole emotional tug of war with the children is when the mother still wants the relationship, the father has moved on, and she's upset. So she's, using the children as pawns because she's upset. So if you can go back to how you felt about that person when that child was conceived, and stop going back to that emotion that you felt when you were breaking up with that person and you hated them. Pull from those emotions that you felt when you were excited about having that baby.
Pull from them emotions that you felt when you were getting it.
Whatever you have to pull from. Whatever
you were not mad at him when he was pounding you down.
Whatever you need to pull from to make it a positive situation, you pull from that. You work on that. You remember those times when you felt like he was, a good man, because he's if he was ever a good guy, he will be good to those children. He's not going to take it out on his children.
He may not like you.
Yes. But he's not going to take it out on his children. That you rarely hear fathers say, you ain't no good just like your mama. But you hear mothers say, you ain't no good just like your daddy.
Because mothers are emotional and men are logical.
And men are logical. And I think we need to start being a little more logical. Yeah. We can't change the way we were wired. I'm emotional.
You're more logical than typical women that I've been with because you have a reverence for your father and your father put logic in you. Then the emotion comes out of you just being a woman. And you were raised by your mother too. But but you do have logical thoughts in you, and they come out to where after the emotion, because we all act in emotions.
Well, I
for a
get
second.
advice about men from other men. I don't ask for relationship advice or advice about men from women, especially single women or divorced women.
She
or
must have been looking at my notes.
bitter women.
That was number 4.
Really? Where are your notes?
My notes are right here. But that was number 4. Number 4 was keep a way of having a successful co-parent is co-parent is 2. Keep other motherfuckers out.
It's so interesting that you say that, because my mother asked me something one day. I can't remember exactly what the question was my mother had asked me, and I told my mother, I said, that's between me and him.
Ooh.
And I didn't say it in a disrespectful way at all, but mothers can overstep their boundaries sometimes
Yes.
when it comes to trying to micromanage their daughter's relationships. And I told my mother, I said, that's between he and I. And she was trying to give me advice. And I said, Mom, you've never been a single mother. So you really can't, if you really want me to get some advice from somebody on how to